We start with another museum from Portugal first. So can you please tell us about your museum and what do you do there?
Yes, hi. I represent the Costume Museum in the Algarve, the south of Portugal. Most of you might know the place for the summer holidays, but we are not there. We are in the hills, so we don't get that many tourists. It's a small museum in a small town, 10,000 inhabitants, where the main activity remains the agriculture and the cork. So in this museum, we try to work mainly with the community to create something. So it belongs to a charity. We only have 3 people working, staff, and we have a low budget. But I think we have the most valuable resource. We have people. We have volunteers, we have people willing to donate their time, experience to build up something good for the community. And part of this community in São Brás de Alportel, there's about 15% of the population that are foreigners. And the Friends of the Museum has a very important meeting point for these people. We have in 1,000 members, we have 20 different nationalities. And for them, the museum is a meeting point to share, to learn, to interact, and to integrate. Yesterday I was telling about the model. We are developing a model of management by layers, horizontal, which we call the layers of cultural participation. You can see the layers on the poster outside, 4 different layers. The first one is the one that is visible for everybody, is the normal traditional functions of the museum: exhibition, research, publication, educative area, the maintenance of the building, and so on. The second one, the day-to-day museum, where we run 30 different activities, 9 groups. We have a choir, a theater group, arts group, jazz club, classical music, because the way to integrate all these different people with different backgrounds, different nationalities, different languages, it's through arts, music, art, photography, all sorts of arts. Then the other level is the integrating museum, where we can find the Friends of the Museum, which I am the coordinator, and we are responsible for the cultural program of the museum. We also have a space for a Portuguese traditional music group, for Ukrainian traditional music group, and other groups from other nationalities. And the last layer is the long-term museum. The Green Museum, to be sustainable, the photography, memory and identity project with the community. Very quickly, this project, we have been working with 610 families of the community, collecting photographies, but not only that, identify who is on the photos, the buildings, the evolution of the community, the place, the buildings, to recreate an archive that is really rich of information. At the moment, we reach 55,000 photos. The inspiration for this...
Tell everything, because they will have to find out themselves.
I was just going to say the last thing. The inspiration for this model, I don't know if you want to know, but it came from nature. As I mentioned before, because São Brás is so connected with it associated so closely with the cork for its history and identity, and also the way that the cork grows. You know that the tree takes 40 years to grow the first layer with commercial value. And then every 9 years there's a new layer. So we thought, this is the layers. It takes time to build the participation. That's it. We have to make a management by layers. It takes time to grow, to build those relationships, to gain confidence for the people to come to the museum and to have the feeling of belonging. The museum belongs to them and there's space for initiative to do things there.
Thank you. Just a quick question: that how do you deal with potential audiences or groups who are tourists, who you cannot spend years and you cannot spend 40 years to build up a relationship? How can you balance, tourism and the local communities with your museum?
Well, the tourism that just go there to visit, last year, I can tell you, we had 7,000 visitors. And the people that we consider more users, the ones that go there regularly, we had 17,000. The visitor pays the ticket, visits the museum, the exhibition, and doesn't realize all the work that is behind. But all the others that go there regularly, they know and they use the space, and it's a big difference in numbers, I think.
Thank you.
No? Yes. Okay. So, moving on to this side, and moving from Portugal to Croatia. Okay, welcome. If you can tell us just briefly something about your resource, your cultural resource, and sort of briefly describe what it looks like.
Hello, my name is Janja, and this is my colleague Sonja. We will tell you a little bit about Pogon. Pogon in Croatian means a factory, actually a part of the factory where things are being produced. And Pogon is a center for independent culture and youth programs. It's situated on the riverbank of the river Sava in Zagreb, in a neighborhood called Trnje. It's an old working neighborhood, very interesting area, kind of mixture of different influences and kind of mixture of different times that were in the city. The old Zagreb and the new Zagreb are kind of combining in this area. Pogon is working in an old pump factory that's been closed in 1990. And after a while, the place became a place for culture and art. Our center was founded in 2009 and started working actually in 2009. And it is a very unique example in Croatia of an institution because it's we call it hybrid institution. It's been governed on one hand by the city of Zagreb, and on the other hand of the alliance of organizations in the field of independent culture. That's the, yeah.
Just to remind everyone, we don't want to reveal too much because this is just to serve as an inspiration for you guys later to take these worksheets here and ask a lot of questions to our guests. So I have another quick question for you. I hope it's not too hard, but where do you see like your institution, this hybrid institution, in like 5 to 10 years?
Well, it's not that hard actually, because I took this job this year in January, and what the former director with her staff did is a wonderful project of reconstruction of the building. The building is very old and it needs to be renovated. So what they did, together with the community and organizations of culture, they made a plan how to improve the center. So I hope in 5 years, exactly in 5 years, maybe I'm being optimistic now, we will have a new modern center which will give more opportunities for more programs because as we are working now, we are completely full throughout the whole year. So it shows that the needs for spaces for production and presentation and affirmation of independent culture are very big in Zagreb, and that we need to improve that. So let's keep our fingers crossed. We are working on this project, and in 5 years, I hope that we will be in the new building.
Well, I hope for that happens as well. Just one other question, very short. If you would have to say one thing that you're most proud of when you're talking about Pogon, what would it be?
This is a question for Sonja, I think, because she's a Pogon veteran. She's been with Pogon from the beginning. so I will give her the mic.
Wow. I think I'm very proud that it exists, that it's full all the time, and that we are managing to maintain the communication, and it's really co-governed by the people that produce programs. So I think that that's an accomplishment.
And I agree. Thank you so much, Pogon. Levente?
Yes, so, because yesterday we heard a lot about the importance of extending audiences and getting also very specific groups of society involved. In Zagreb there's a theater cluster that works specifically with children and youth. And we also understood that in many Croatian cities one of the big challenges is to keep youth in town, keep youth involved. So maybe you can tell a little bit about your work, and maybe there's a lot for other cities to learn from.
Okay, thank you. Hi, I'm Marija Antić. I'm from Zagreb, and I'm here in the name of Zmajevo Gnjezdo, Dragon Nest. It's a first Croatian cluster of independent theaters for youth and children. We are a group of seven theaters united in something that we want. We are a group of seven, and we're here gathered together because we share the same vision about what children theater could and should be, not just a place with an actor on a stage and a silent audience, but we see it as a place where you can encourage critical thinking, make creative connections between performers and recipients, and also a place where young people can be educated and growing up in theater, through theater. Although we are all different in aesthetic concept, in artistic and performing, we are in different arts, from puppet theaters to circus art, but we all kind of gather because we feel that Zagreb needs a place for diversity in this kind of children theater. And I don't know, the idea occurred from the owners of Theater Mala Scena, who is one of the member of our group, because it was the only place. This is the only theater who has really its own premises, the place, the theater house, and all the other six of us, we didn't have that luxus. So it was kind of win-win position for all, because we have a very independent children theater in Zagreb. The scene is very excellent, very productive, innovative, and we kind of sorry. So we bring our knowledge and our experience and our work in this venue, Mala Scena, which is a kind of landmark of Croatian theater in Zagreb. That's pretty much it. I don't know, I'm kind of confused.
Maybe one quick question about your cluster. How do you see it evolving? Do you have to fight for recognition within the theater and cultural scene as a very specifically oriented organization? Fight for audience or well, but we are Mala Scena is a name which is well known for children. It's a venue everybody knows about it. So we have a name, but this is a new strategy of working in so. We don't have to fight because we are really, the six of us, we have very good shows and we are recognizable already. So, yeah, I think we're the excellent, yeah. Yeah, I hope so, yeah. Thank you very much. Let's move on.
Hello again. Hello again. Yes? Is it working? Ah, it's working. Yay! Okay, so we are moving south. If you can tell us a bit about your cultural resource, its name, where it's situated, and just briefly describe it.
Thanks, and thanks for the invitation. My name is Adriano, and I come from the south of Italy, and I'm representing here this space. The name is L'Asilo, which is in Napoli, in the south of Italy. Actually, this space, the physical space, is a 3-story building, an historical building in the city center of the city. And it was occupied some 6 years ago to protest again, let's say, the cultural governance of the city and the clientele system. After the initial occupation, we refused to be in permanent occupation, and we sought to promote different governance of this cultural space, this space based on the recognition of the community of workers in the art and in culture, like the self-governing institutions of the space. After some years of negotiation with the municipality of Napoli, we actually were officially recognized like a community that manages this space. So there is a weekly assembly in which all the, let's say, the cultural and the social aspects of L'Asilo are decided in this assembly. And well, basically, this model is quite an innovating model which tries to be as much participation of people as possible, and as I said before, in this kind of community-based model.
That sounds like it sounds like also a success story, but it sounds like a lot of hard work. What would you say was the biggest challenge in trying to managing and be in this process of participation all the time?
You have two kinds of challenges. The first one is to learn to deal with other people within an assembly based on the method of consensus, which is not easy, and you have to learn the dynamics of a community. At the same time, the other difficult thing was to deal with the municipality and politicians and institutions, all the stuff. So basically, but I have also to say that they were quite open to different forms of governance of a public space, and also they were quite open to accept radical models of self-government and collective sharing of this kind of space. Thanks.
That sounds very reassuring. So just one last question. Where would you like your center, your cultural center, to be in 5 years, say, time?
Well, seizing the power of the state. No, I'm joking. Basically, a full independent production center. I think that's our main aim in next years.
Okay. And good luck with that. Levente, back to you.
Yes, we're moving back to Croatia, and I must tell that about a year ago, Tamara from Kultura Nova took me a walk in Pula, and we ended up in Rojc, which is a culture center, but it's actually almost like a city. It's a very big culture center, definitely one of the biggest I saw, maybe after Matadero, but that's another story. So I was really impressed, and I'm really curious to hear more about how Rojc is functioning.
Hello, my name is Irene. I represent Community Center Rojc. Well, unfortunately, we didn't meet when you were in Pula. It's a huge building, 16,000 square meters, in the center of the city Pula. Pula is a small town on the coast. Inside of the center there are 110 associations, but really different, not only from culture, also from different fields of work, like sport association, hobbyistic, technical culture, and so on. The building was built in Austro-Hungarian time, and we don't have like big concert halls or big theaters or something like that. It's all small rooms inside that very much define how we work inside. I represent the organization called Reutz Alliance, that it's an alliance that gathers some of the association in the center who are trying to connect more association through communication and some common activities. We also run one space, it's called the living room. It's the only common space in the building because all the other spaces are used by the association only for them and for that activities. And I won't say more because then I will say everything.
Yes, I'm quite curious because you have 110 associations. How do you have a common vision for all of them, and do they all subscribe to this vision, or it's still a mosaic of very different activities? I think this is your work.
Yes, it's still a mosaic. It's still lots of work in communications. Also trying to unite us all and get some vision together. There are in last years some things changed, and we have common vision more or less. Also, for model of governing in the center, we have a body that is called coordination. It consists from 6 members, 3 members of City of Pula, that is owner of the building, and 3 members of Reutz Alliance. So this is the body that decides about financing and maintaining of the building, some investments and so on. Yes, but we are very different inside, so it's not easy job to communicate, also because different fields of work and then different interests and so on.
It's more about the challenges of participatory governance in the fair.
Yes, well, where challenges await. And we're moving back to the south. Hello, how are you? Thank you for joining us. And can you tell us briefly about your cultural resource and where it's located?
Hello everyone. Thanks for this invite. I'm Cristina, and I'm a representative for Farm Cultural Park. Farm Cultural Park is in Sicily, in Favara, and it's an independent center. We born in the 2010, so 7 years ago, thanks to a private idea of Andrea Bartoli and Florinda Sajeva, and they are a couple who decided 7 years ago to stay in their city for make something better for their daughter and for the new generation. So inside another quarter of the city center, they built inside this quarter, and step by step, year by year after year, they made all renew inside the quarter and created this park where you can share the culture and the contemporary art. We are an independent center, and we are open for our tourists. And we have a gallery and a lot of exhibition spaces where you can see always, for all the years, temporary exhibition. Last years, we realized one of the most important projects for us, an architecture school for children, and is one of the most important projects of Farm, and tried is inspiration from Tokyo, where actually the first one is school is there. Our goal in the future are to we want to realize a children museum, because for us the most important thing is give a good education about the urban requalification, and try always to give the possibility for our community and for the future adults of tomorrow to be a good person and a good people.
Thank you. But, so you mentioned that one of the starting goals was to stay in the local community and to build something there. So how does the local community react to what you're doing?
It's our topic. When the project started, the people doesn't understood what happened, and they thought that Andrea Florinda was totally crazy, just like alien people. And then they understood. The quarter was totally abandoned. and without nothing interesting to see. And now for us it's beautiful to say, come there and see what we make all day during our work and during our job, during our communication with the public and with our tourists. In fact, the Favara community hasn't nothing interesting why the tourists should come there. And then, thanks to Farm Cultural Park, Favara reborn.
That sounds, congratulations. I hope it progresses just even more.
Let's move further on to Belgrade, and I must say, selfishly, I'm very excited that I'm going to Belgrade on Sunday, and I'll actually go straight to Magacin. So I'm really curious to figure out more about Magacin in Belgrade.
Hello, thank you. I'm Ksenia, I'm representing Magacin in Kraljevića, Marka in Belgrade. So I'll try to keep it brief with some basic information that I find interesting. So Magacin was founded in 2007 through very lucky combination of political will and activism, where an informal association called The Other Scene was trying to find a space for the independent scene, like a space for both work, performance, and also office space. So there was a really lucky situation where we got the space, but of course, as it usually goes, the political will goes up to a point. So Magacin never became an independent space legally because it needed to be governed by a city institution. So what happened then was that through an open call, 6 organizations got the right to use the space. We never got a contract, so we were basically there illegally, and we've been there illegally for the past 10 years. We've had a celebration this June where we kind of got these actual numbers of what happens in Magacin. And in 2016, we realized that we've made around 1,000 programs, which come from all kinds of art, also not only art, but also some other struggles, either for public spaces or some other type of activist work. And the organization, or the institution actually, that was governing Magacin in 2016 with a whole infrastructure, staff, several performance venues, or actually performance halls, had 1,500. So comparing to this, we realized when you look at the numbers, what happens if you have a self-governing space. So now in this situation, we don't have a coordinator, we don't have an office that actually takes care of everything, but we have an open calendar and a coordinator that changes from month to month. This also means that it's a bit, well, unorthodox or a bit difficult than having someone who's in charge of the space throughout the year. But this also kind of means that the organizations that are using Magacin get to have this experience of organizing programs that are not specifically in their field. So basically, if, for example, a circus organization is the coordinator for the month of November, they will have to take care, they need to take care of exhibitions, other types of discursive programs, performances, conferences, etc. So basically, Magacin is free to use. It's just that we urge all the participants to participate also in the budget, where we kind of need the money for everyday I don't know, toilet paper, soap, and stuff like that. So it's free to use, but participation is, in this sense, really necessary.
Thank you. Just one quick question. Where do you see yourself in a few years? Do you need to be a bit more structured, more legalized, or it's perfectly fine the way it is?
Well, I can speak from my point of view. I see Magacin as maybe the first space that will have the precedent of the contract between the city and the civil partner or civil organization or an association. Because I think that this precedent is something that really needs to happen because there are many spaces and this struggle for space and this fight is an ongoing thing for the past decade. So I really think that there needs to be a pioneer in this, and I hope it will be Magacin.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And back to Croatia. Karlovac, how are you? Karlovac is good. Karlovac is good. Okay. Can you tell us something about what's going on in Karlovac with your platform and the space that you're trying to manage and everything? Just briefly, please.
Okay.
Don't give away too much.
Okay, so I'm Domagoj from Karlovac. At the moment, we are managing one part of the building called Hrvatski dom in somewhat of a model of civil public partnership. And it's going well. I could say it's a good example for the local community. Everything started with a platform raised from the interest of production of independent cultural programs. Now the platform grew to 12 organizations, and we also have an alliance, which is like a formal, formal organization which manages one part of the building. Our idea and goal is to find adequate new spaces inside of the building, which is quite big. And the building of Hrvatski dom was built in the 1920s, and it was built as a cultural center of some sort. So it has value in that way, and the place we have now isn't adequate for all the types of programs that we can do and need in the local community. So we try to fit in everything now. So yeah, the plan is to expand it with new organizations, new audiences, and so on. Yeah.
Thank you. And do you think that this sort of space, because I know it's huge, right? It's several thousand square meters. Do you think this sort of large venue has the capacity for the city of Karlovac? Do you think there's enough audience for all the things that could be happening there?
Well, I suppose it isn't at the moment. So we have a plan to gradually occupy place by place, and it's really a consensus with the local city. So that is the plan. When will the need arise to occupy the whole building and fill it with programs, then we will do that. So.
Okay. So what is sort of your vision, like your place 10 years from now? How do you want it to look like?
Well, I want it to look better than it is now. I wanted the places that we have now to be more specific for the types of programs, and that to be applied in all other places, and that it can be sustainable in a way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, and I wish you best of luck. Levente?
Let's move on to Ljubljana, to Pekarna.
Maribor.
Sorry, to Maribor, to Pekarna.
Hi, I'm Simon from Pekarna, and I would like to say that maybe also the context of Pekarna is similar to Ljubljana. Actually, Metelkova that was represented yesterday. Also the history somehow, or just to give a short background, derives from this 80s social movements, punk culture that somehow after the separation from Yugoslavia took over, a group of people took over actually of the ex-military bakery complex and started doing the program there in terms of the concerts, and many places were developed also like places for social initiatives or different organizations. And later on, we're just one of the organizations there. An NGO was created in 96, and this NGO, particular where I come from, it has a complex name, but it describes really well what we do. It's an organization for support of civil initiative and social movements, Pekarna Magdalenske mreže. So actually this is what we do. We have maybe 3 fields that we are working on. One is youth, one is social issues, and one is culture. And because we're here also on the basis of culture, let's say more about this art segment, I would say that we have 3 programs. One is Artists in Residency called Guest Room. We have a film festival, stop motion animation film festival, Stop Trick, and other things like, because we're also supporting the other initiative and social movements. Those are the programs that are just supported by us, and we are just producers in the legal terms, because we're offering a backbone to different really community-based or grassroots informal organizations that could not apply, let's say, for the money or to get the space. So we are being a legal body for them to apply. And in this way, also in terms of production and space, we give them these opportunities. And because we're here also for the governance models, I can also say something from this historical point, how it happened, and also maybe a good example, what's different from Pekarna's view to Metelkova's that we heard yesterday. They don't want to accept this governance model in terms of being legal on the outside and to be, let's say, self-governed in the inside. But at some point, Pekarna actually in 2010, they accepted this model, because the Pekarna was also being threatened from the municipality, from the mayor side, because I would say maybe this is also somehow typical, as I also talked to my colleagues from the Balkans, that we have really strong sheriff-like mayors who can decide a lot also on the fields where they have no clue about. So of course this place was a perfect place for them to build a new development project. So then a strong movement, also supported by TEH, Trans-Europe Halls, started, and we managed to destroy, or how to say, to stop these projects. And there was a conference called New Times, New Models. And through these discussions, actually a new model was implemented that took away somehow this fully autonomous position of Pekarna that used to have. So from this legal point of view, now the owner of the space is municipality, because before that it was the Ministry of Internal Affairs. The main manager in terms of also maintaining the buildings and taking care for the electricity bills and so on, is a city youth center organization. But the inner organizations, let's call it, many of NGOs or clubs or different organizations like the climbers or the divers, they have their internal let's call it freedom or self-governance. But because this model is not fully implemented yet, because there was, of course, contract and legal things that no one also had a clue back then about how this is going to be, actually only the buildings that get to be renovated adopt the model. And for now, from the 5 buildings, only 1 was renovated, where our organization is situated. So this model for now, it's only for us, and it's quite complicated, because Few of the representatives are selected by the users, 2 from the municipality, 1 from this legal manager, and if someone is more interested about this structure, can be also like explained outside to give space for others also to represent. But in general, idea is that the things are carried out and talked through on the plenums, which for now function as regular meetings, but they're not always as efficient as we would like to be. And one of these problems is also because now a strong division between 2 models appeared, because other users are not obliged yet to use this model, so they're not seeing it as something that is necessary also to be carried out, except, of course, the one who are situated in one of those buildings. And for those part of the model, I could say that it functions quite okay for now. Thank you.
Thank you. And as you said, there will be plenty of time to go into details in the fair. I have one very quick question about, because a few years ago you were in a similar situation as Rijeka, no? European Capital of Culture. Did the European Capital of Culture season help your position as independent culture, or did it endanger you as in many other cities?
Well, I would say Maribor it can be a good and a really bad example for this. A lot changed in the city, and I would say that in general, people in the city would say nothing changed. It was really bad. It was really bad maybe from the organizers' point of view and how the municipality lead these projects, because in the end, I would say more than 60-70% of the project were not carried out, and only few of those projects remained. One of those is actually our residential platform, and it didn't stay because of the support of the local municipality, but actually because of our struggles. And most of the projects were not long-term oriented. And from this point, I would say that what actually changed was just 1 year of really hype cultural production, which showed the people of the city that the city can have the content, and actually brought the people back to the center, because through the years the city died because of the shopping centers, because of the transition, and it was like a really ghost of towns. There was maybe a really important thing, only 1 bar opened in the city that was open until 10, and this is also bad in the way. But now we have like a huge wave of galleries in the city which actually derives from people knowing that the city can be different, and also different NGOs and community-based people push the municipality, because a lot of the places are owned by the municipality, let's say random shops that are empty, and got these places now for free. So the content actually appeared now in the city much more diverse after the EPK European presidency than before. And I think this is what it's a good thing that was brought. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And sorry again for mixing up. You can see that I have never been yet to Maribor, but I will certainly.
Then I guess you should visit. And I'm staying in Croatia. I guess I'm not going anywhere for now. So, hello, welcome Čakovec. Can you tell me something about your social cultural center and just briefly describe it?
Of course. Hello, everybody. My name is Mimi. I come from Čakovec, the smallest county in Croatia, Međimurje. So we started as a group of about 30 NGOs, individuals, and so on. And we were promised by local community that we get some space in ex-military campus. And we were very enthusiastic at the beginning. But after a few years, when we saw that that will not be realized, they said to us, well, we can give you some smaller spaces in Čakovec. And so we decided to make some polylocational model that we will explain you later outside. And now, recently, we have some agreement with county municipality, and we will make some cooperation with co-management with that space. And actually, in Međimurje, people are very closed, So the negotiations took a lot of time, and everything is very slow, but it moves up.
Okay. So there is perspective that it's going to, okay. So what is it that you want to achieve for the local community? What was your goal when you said we want a place that will be a social and culture center?
In Čakovec is a situation that independent culture has no space for living and working. And so the other diverse NGOs that make art or culture or are occupied with social activities or something have a lot of space, and it is small community. Čakovec is rather small city, and it is good that we gather together. So all interested parts, and to make life together.
And would you say that in these last few years that your center has been active, do you see a change in your local community because of your programs or because of your advocacy or any other activities that you've been doing?
Well, I think that there will be a lot of job to do with public, with our members. So we have ups and downs, and it is very dynamic situation. Some people give up, then you must again motivate them to join the course and so on.
Okay, just don't give up. Okay, thank you so much. Levente.
Okay, last but not least, as we heard a lot about shifting from informality to formality or the other way around, I think the Tabacalera in Madrid has an interesting situation and experienced a bit in-betweenness between formality and informality, right? Can you tell us a little bit about the Tabacalera?
Okay, thank you. Well, in fact, I could now leave for lunch because our friend from Napoli has told almost everything I got to say. Is they are in a very similar situation to us, but with the difference that we are working, we depend from the Ministry of Culture. Our space is based in 32,000 square meters. But we are working just with 9,000. So we have been for 80 years there because the pressing of the local community and the neighborhood. And in this time we in fact got to we have seen an important change in this neighborhood that is, as I told you, in the downtown in Madrid. There lives 90 different nationalities, and there was an important lack of cultural services. Mm-hmm. And now we offer from legal advice, psychological services, language teaching, and of course a space for art creation and cultural sharing. And we are also organized by the assembly, and we got to take all the decisions by consensus. And after that we have what we call the commissions, that are the groups that daily manage the situations about economy, about the programming, things like that. And well, we are now in the process of get a new agreement with the ministry because the last contract is finishing now. And the situation is complex because our organization has a clear progressist point of view, and the ministry in Spain, as you know, is very conservative. But the branch we are working with in the ministry is the Secretary of Fine Art, and there are very interesting people that believes in this kind of projects, self-government and this organization of letting the people share their knowledge.
And if everything goes well with the negotiations, where do you see La Tabacalera in 5 or 10 years? Where would you like to head to?
Well, in fact, we are happy because we are placing some kind of seed of this way of managing, of governing, in the ministry. So the border between the officiality and our work is dissolving. So we are starting to make events together and things together, because they have a small part of the building where they make their exhibitions and more normal activities. And in the last few years, we are seeing that as we can share the space, and we soon could be making things together, but respecting our principles. And next week we are going also to a place in northwest in Spain in similar situation. It's an formerly jail that has been closed for 10 years, and we are visiting them to share our experience and to try to put that to work in the same way.
Thank you. So another an interesting model of co-governing space between state and local community to learn from. I think this is it for now, and the most interesting part comes now, when you will have the opportunity to explore all these initiatives in depth. And I give you the voice.
Yeah, so those of you who weren't here yesterday, I don't think there's a lot of those, but we have prepared worksheets for you. The idea is to, our task here was to just give you a basic overview of the cultural resources our guests are handling and managing, and we hope that we got you inspired to ask them more questions, because I believe that they have so much more to tell about their resources than we had time for. So our next phase is going to be that we're going to move in the corridor, where everyone will stand by their posters, which are truly wonderful. They did a lot of work and hard work on their posters, and I encourage you to ask them questions, to find out about the resources, to see what maybe was the battle to even get the resources that they're today in. And we're going to do this until lunch. The worksheets are here, so please take them. Lunch is at 1 p.m. and until then you have time to talk to representatives of the resources. Just one more thing before we move on to the corridor. After lunch, the part of the conference begins where we will have parallel stuff going on. So be sure to check out what will be in your program booklets. That's one thing. So we will have an open talk, and we will have parallel paper sessions. And just to make it easier for you to sort of handle yourself in this space, in your booklets, in your program booklets, you have these little marks that explain which session is going to be in what room, and these marks in paper session in the booklet correspond with like sort of the marks that are in front of the rooms, so that you can manage through space. There's also posters all over the space explaining which room is where and how you navigate towards that. Of course, if there's any questions about where everything is, I'm here, Dea's here, you can ask us, we're always somewhere around. Thank you. Go, here are worksheets.